Car Obsession is proudly supported by Carly and Draggy. Check out the video description to find out the latest discount codes.
In recent times, I've tested the Ford Puma, the Nissan Juke and the Hyundai Kona. These are pretty good cars in their own right, but what if you want something a bit more pragmatic? Well, this could be the car for you. Say hello to the brand new Honda HR-V Hybrid. This is a car that Honda states offers clever packaging as well as class-leading spaciousness. But how true is that? Now, I'm afraid I start with bad news. Although the boot is big enough to fit a full-grown YouTuber, it is smaller compared to the last car. That is because this car is now a hybrid and the battery for the hybrid system is under the boot floor. This offers just 335 litres, but it gets worse because if you have the premium sound system, like I do in this trim level, you do get a bit less. So this is around 320 litres, give or take. So if you're looking for an SUV, well, a small SUV, or a crossover with a larger boot, this may not be the car for you. If you need more space, you can, of course, fold down the 60/40 rear seats to give you just over 1,300 litres if you don't have the premium sound system, or just under 1,300 litres if you do. Although it isn't the biggest, it's quite practical. The opening is quite wide. There is a little bit of a load lip, but it is very minimal. You do have a hook on the left-hand side, as well as two tether hooks as well. So yeah, it isn't the biggest, but I'm sure for most people it should be usable. But try not to fit YouTubers in there. YouTubers will not be happy in the boot. Top tip for you. Whilst the boots may be disappointing, I do bring you some good news, and that is the Honda Magic seats are still here. These are very clever and it makes the cabin more versatile. For example, when you fold them down, they do well and truly fold flat. So if you want to go to IKEA, B&Q, or perhaps you want to do a large dump run, this will come in very handy. Better still, watch this. You can lift up the base of the seats, meaning you can transport taller items. So perhaps you've been to the garden centre, bought yourself a tallish plant, you can pop it in here and have no concerns. Well, don't turn too quickly, otherwise it will fall over and you'll get soil all over your carpet. That is not a good day. But that aside, let me speak about space and practicality, which is very good. Now, as always, the driver's seat has been set for my height. I'm 6'2", so I am, of course, a taller chap. Even so, as you will see in a few seconds, I have acres of knee room and leg room. Look at this, guys. I can really stretch out and make myself at home. Now, it isn't perfect in the back, although I do believe Honda's claims about class-leading spaciousness, because, hello, look at that, the headroom isn't quite as impressive. Now, for my height, I've got just about enough, but if you are taller than me, you may find the rear a bit of a tight squeeze, so that is a little bit of a negative. Speaking of a bit of a tight squeeze, could you fit 3 adults in the back? No, I don't think so, but to be fair, this is a small SUV slash crossover. Would you really expect to fit 3 adults in the back in comfort? I don't think so. If you're more concerned about carrying children, then of course there are ISOFIX points. In regard to practicality, there is a mixed bag in the back of the Honda HR-V. The door bins are a bit pathetic, I'm afraid, Honda, because yes, you can fit in a small bottle, but that's pretty much all you can fit in. You do have a little bit here where perhaps you can pop some chewing gum, but yeah, I would have expected larger door bins for the rear Honda. You do get 2 map pockets, one either side, as well as hooks, a storage area down here, 2 USB ports and some ventilation controls, and last but not least, in the middle you do get an armrest, which weirdly doesn't lock into place. Watch this, it just flops down onto the base of the seat, which just seems a little bit clunky and clumsy. But anyway, that aside, you do have 2 cup holders, and of course you can use the armrest itself for added comfort for a longer journey. I like the fact that it feels like there's quite a lot of natural light coming into the cabin, even though I don't have a panoramic roof. So yes, the inside, well, the rear of the Honda HR-V is a pleasing place to be, but it isn't perfect. I would like the practicality to be a little bit better and a bit more headroom, please, Honda. Now, before we hit the road, let me finish with the front of the interior, which is a nice place to be. I really like the upholstery on this advanced style trim level. It helps to give the cabin a nice classy upmarket feeling. Anyway, let me park my bottom, my derriere, and to make myself comfortable, which, to be frank, in the HRV is very easy. Getting a good, comfortable driving setup is a doddle because the steering wheel has got plenty of adjustment, as does the driver's seat, although the driver's seat is all manual. So if you're expecting something which is electronically adjustable, you're not going to get it, even in the range topping version of the HRV. But even so, yes, getting comfortable is pretty easy indeed. Now, like the rear, practicality is a bit of a mixed bag because yes, you do get door bins in the front doors, but they're not as large as I would have hoped. I can fit in this bottle. This is 500 millilitres, but that's about it. I do have a bit of space left over, but if you wanted to fit a 1 litre bottle, you're going to struggle, which I think is a bit disappointing. You do also have 2 cup holders in the middle, but that's pretty standard, isn't it? A wireless phone charging pad, which comes as standard on the advanced style. A little shelf above it where you can pop some smaller items. You've also got a little slot to the right hand side of your right knee as a driver, where you can store some smaller items out of sight, out of mind. A little bit of storage underneath the centre armrest, and of course, last but not least, you do get a glove box which offers a decent amount of space. I do like the way in which the cabin is finished in the HRV. Yes, okay, you do get harder plastics on top of the dash, but on the plus side, these will be more harder wearing over time. You do get this nice cream panel on the dash to help break up the sea of black, as well as this kind of bronzy styling cue around the gear lever, which is complemented by a nice silver accent. I do like the fact that you do get a bit of padding on the centre console, so on a longer journey you can rest your leg on it and it will give you a bit more comfort. The dials and everything that you interact with in here, it feels well built, it feels robust, and more importantly, it feels like it's going to stand the test of time, which you would expect from a Honda. So that is very good. Anyway, I think it is about time we should go for a drive. The new Honda HRV is the first to join Honda's eHEV lineup. eHEV, that stands for Hybrid Electric Vehicle. The first E, I've got no idea what that stands for. I think that's simply there to be trendy. So you have to excuse that. That's just the safety systems having a bit of a fit because I'm going down a country lane. Now, the system is very clever, and in fact, Honda has got another name for this, the i-MMD. That's Intelligent Multi-Mode Drive. Now, to explain it properly, in depth, would require a James May level of attention to detail, but to keep things simplified, you have 3 modes in which the HRV operates. You have EV only, in which the car drives in EV only, very straightforward. You have hybrid, in which the 1.5 litre petrol engine, the Atkinson cycle engine, is awoken and joins the party, but doesn't drive the front wheels. Instead, it acts as a generator. And then last but not least, you have engine mode. Now, in this mode, in the e-CVT, which isn't actually a CVT at all, but I'll get onto that very shortly, within that transmission, if you want to call it that, because technically speaking it isn't a transmission, you have a clutch. That locks up and in turn disengages the electric motor, meaning the engine is directly mated to the front wheel. So in engine only mode, it's only the engine that is driving the front wheels. Self-explanatory. But let's say, for example, you're in engine only mode on the motorway and you need a bit of extra power to perform an overtake. Well, in that situation, the clutch is able to disengage, re-engage the electric motor to give you that extra bit of boost to allow you to make that overtake. So it is a very clever system. Now, fear not, all of this happens automatically without any input from yourself, apart from driving the car, of course, and it works seamlessly. You'll have very little idea that it is switching between modes unless you look down like I have now and seeing that it is in EV only mode. It is worth noting that EV only can kick in at higher speeds, but it won't be for long because, as you can imagine, it will drain the battery quite quickly. Now, in hybrid mode, as well as the engine acting as a generator for the electric motor, it can also feed excess power back into the battery. Now, technically speaking, this car has got 2 electric motors, but one is responsible for driving the front wheels, the other is a generator. So although this is a 2 electric motor setup, they're motor generators, if that makes sense. The Honda HR-V Hybrid offers around 130 horsepower along with 252 Newton meters of torque. If you prefer that in pounds-feet, that's 187. Now, I'm sure you're not too concerned about performance, but in case you are, this will hit 62 miles per hour in 10.6 seconds, and the top speed is around 110 miles per hour. Now, as well as having the i-MMD and the eHEV setup, I do also have a choice of driving modes, which are down here, and I can activate them using a toggle switch. So I have Econ, which gives you more economical driving, pretty straightforward. Normal, which again is straightforward, and Sport if you're feeling a bit more racy. Although this car isn't sporty really, however it isn't designed to be sporty. Having said that, it is a pleasurable car to drive. Now, one of the highlight features of the HR-V is the ride comfort. Yes, you may have noticed. The engine does get quite noisy, rough and coarse under harder acceleration, but if I lift off, it settles down to a nice hushed tone. But yes, the ride comfort of the HR-V is arguably one of the standout features because it is brilliant. It doesn't matter what trim level you go for, they are all fitted with 18-inch alloys. So don't think that if you go for the range-topping version like I have here, that the ride will be ruined by oversized rims. No, the ride comfort is very, very compliant. The dampers are soft in their setup, but they're still well controlled, so it doesn't feel too floaty or wallery. It's a really well balanced chassis. And in the corners, you'll find it's quite neat and tidy. Of course, this isn't designed for handling, so it's no hot hatch, but it isn't designed for that kind of driving. Having said that, as I will demonstrate in the corners, the handling is neat and tidy. Yes, there is a bit of inevitable body roll, but it's well controlled. The steering is really well balanced. It's really well weighted. Not too heavy, not too light, and the actual feedback, the weight, feels quite natural. It doesn't feel overly assisted. So that is a very, very good thing in my opinion. The brakes also perform well. In some hybrids or electric vehicles, the brakes can feel, or the brake pedal can feel a bit numb when you initially dab it, but no such complaints in this car. Now, going back to the comfort, my driver's seat is very comfortable, it's supportive, it's heated if I need it on a colder day, which today I don't, of course. And I've also got a heated steering wheel as standard as well. This is the advanced style trim level, in case I hadn't already mentioned it in this video. Now we go from comfort to refinement, which is on the whole pretty good. When you're not accelerating or putting the engine under a significant amount of load, then the engine is nigh on silent. It is quiet in here, but what I would say is there is more noise than I would have expected coming from the alloys, from the tyres. This is wearing Michelin Primacy 4 tyres, and they are on the noisier side. Not deafening, but with my sound meter at 70 miles per hour, I recorded around 72 decibels, which from memory is a bit louder compared to other cars I've driven in this class. So if you want something that's super, super refined, you may want to look elsewhere. But do I think this would be tiring to drive on a longer journey? No, far from it. Now, going back to the e-CVT I mentioned earlier, although it has CVT in the name, it is a bit of a misleading name because it isn't a CVT at all, and I've fallen into that trap before, much like fellow YouTuber Petrol. No, this car, technically speaking, doesn't have a transmission as such. Again, you need kind of James May levels of nerdiness to properly explain it, but essentially the engine has got a fixed gear, which is comparable to a 6th gear in a manual car. The gear ratio is similar. The electric motor also has its own fixed gear ratio. So my assumption is the reason why Honda call it an e-CVT is because, technically speaking, the transmission, if you want to call it that, is variable, because you can either have the gear ratio from the engine or from the electric motor. So it is variable in that sense, but it isn't a CVT like you get that has got belts and pulleys and so forth. No. So yes, the phrasing e-CVT is somewhat misleading, because this car doesn't really have a proper traditional transmission. Again, that's a very clever setup. If you've got a bit of time to kill, I would urge you to jump onto YouTube. Well, you're on YouTube already, that's why you're here, but look at videos that explain it in greater depth. It's a very, very intelligent and well engineered product. So Honda, well done. I think it deserves more credit than it probably gets. In regard to visibility, I've had no complaints with that whilst I've had the car. The A-pillars are a little bit chunky, but I've not found them to restrict vision. The door mirrors are of a good size, arguably maybe a bit too big, because I do attract wind noise at speed. And seeing out the back, yep, over the shoulder, no problem, and the rear window is of a very good size. You do have blind spot monitoring as standard, as part of the new Honda sensing system, which is available for the HR-V. I've also got rear cross traffic alert and front and rear parking sensors, as well as a reversing camera. So if you do find yourself in a tight spot and you're not that confident, don't worry, Honda has got your back. Let's cover fuel economy, and this is an area where I'm sure you are very interested in, because why else would you really be looking into a car like this? Now, the whole idea of having the Atkinson cycle engine, the i-MMD and the e-CVT, it is all about efficiency. Now, on a combined run, Honda states that you can get around 52 mpg. I think more specifically, it is 52.3 mpg on a combined run. And in my experience, what have I got? Let's have a quick look, shall we? So I've been getting 44.9, not too bad. On my drive today, I've been getting 47, it's just ticked over to 47. And on my drive from home to my filming location, which is around 20 miles or so, I was able to get 49 mpg, and that was mostly A roads. So pretty fuel efficient. In regard to CO2 emissions, that has emissions as low as 122 grams per kilometre. Some eagle-eyed amongst you may have spotted that I do have flappy paddles on the steering wheel, but they are not to change gear, because of course this car doesn't have a traditional transmission. No, these paddles are in fact used to increase or decrease the strength of the regenerative braking. So the paddle on the right hand side makes it weaker, and the paddle on the left hand side makes it stronger. You do have a B driving mode, which gives you better regenerative braking compared to the standard D mode. That's pretty standard really in hybrids.
Before I wrap this video up, let me go through some pricing. There are 3 trim levels available: Elegance, Advance and Advanced Style, which have respective prices of £29,410, £31,780 and £34,850. Elegance has standout features such as LED headlights, Honda sensing, reversing camera, 9-inch Honda Connect system, front and rear parking sensors and heated front seats. Advance adds to this with heated steering wheel, power tailgate and synthetic leather and fabric upholstery. Last but not least, you have the Advanced Style. This adds premium audio, 2-tone paint, roof rails, LED cornering lights and a wireless phone charger.
So to conclude, if you're after a comfortable crossover with strong fuel economy and plenty of kit, I would urge you to take a look at the Honda HR-V Hybrid. However, if you want something with a larger boot, or perhaps you're on a bit of a budget, then this car probably isn't for you. Overall, should you buy, try or avoid the Honda HR-V Hybrid? I think you should try it. Like I say, it may not be to everyone's needs or desires, but if you're after a crossover, I would say it is definitely worth a look. A massive thank you to Honda UK for loaning me the car for the week, and of course a massive thank you to you guys watching this video. If you have enjoyed it or found it useful, be sure to like, comment and subscribe. If you are subscribed, don't forget to click the bell icon so you get notified every time I make a video. But until the next time guys, be sure to keep up the car obsession.